Welcome to part 2 of my Florida birding trip. This time round we're at the southwest corner in the Fort Myers and Sanibel area. We've got kingfishers, terns, cranes, herons, egrets and even a dolphin in this one, so stay tuned and come along for the journey. I'm in a kayak on a lake and I'm just going into the Commodore Creek kayak trail, which is in Tarpon Bay on the island of Sanibel on the west coast of Florida. And I've got between my legs, among other things, my 400 with a 2x converter. It's got a towel on it, but it's still getting pretty wet. And it's gone very quiet just as we've entered the trail launch. There's an anhinga just in front of us. There should be one or two night herons, blue herons. Already had a bald eagle fly over. But the current is going that way. So this has now become very easy. It's probably making me look quite professional on the kayak. Haven't bonked a gator yet. But the last time I did this, I did accidentally get very, very close to one. Like 3 or 4 feet. And then he realised I wasn't an alligator and buggered off quickly. It's only about 3 feet deep here, 4 feet deep. But they seem to enjoy it nonetheless. There is quite a big one. I think this kayak trail is connected to the Ding Darling Nature Reserve. And there's a 10-footer there. So he probably comes across here from time to time. It's alright. I'll bonk him. This was just ideal. It was one of those sessions where in reality you're not going to keep any of the pictures you get, but it's such a nice time to just be there floating around in the water, not knowing what could be around the next corner. Absolutely lovely. Around the base of these mangroves there are dozens of these tiny little crabs. I don't know what species they are, but they're really fast. Running up the trees as soon as I come around a corner, you can see them all scatter. But I'm going to try and get a decent picture of one so you can see what I mean, but they're only small. That sounded fairly alligatorish as I go through a tree. But there's millions of them. Just been black-crowned night herons and blue herons so far. But I'm just drifting through this natural lazy river. It's very pleasant. At this point I had to go full pace back to land. Huge storm in the distance. I passed 3 people going out and they eventually had to be rescued by a boat, so it was good timing. Back down to the other end of the island for the final session. Loads of kingfishers, turnstones and terns, but in general it was a lovely evening, so quite nice to just sit there and soak it all in. Getting off the island of Sanibel was actually a bit of a pain. Roadworks on the causeway made it take ages, But look at this, it was just gorgeous, and there's ospreys sat all the way along this bridge, so it was not bad for traffic. The next morning it was clear, it was dark, it was grey, it was horrible, it even rained in the morning. But I didn't give up, I had to make the most of my time, and I was rewarded. To warm up, this royal tern looked injured, but he actually flew off and seemed to be fine, but he was lying down in this rather weird position compared to all the other birds, but I thought I'd grab a picture just to have a look later. But what came next, I couldn't have asked for any more. This was a Florida classic, something people try and encounter whenever they go birding in the region. It was a reddish egret. And it wasn't just one reddish egret, it was two. And it was two reddish egrets fighting for space on the beach and in the salt lagoons with two snowy egrets. This was awesome. This is a Florida specialty, and look at this. They've got the most insane way of hunting, darting back and forth and mantling with their wings to stop the sun blocking out the fish. They'd eyed each other up, and in a split second, it was on. It was time for the reddish egret to show these snowies who was boss. It absolutely battered them, but I was sweating. I couldn't miss this. This is the reason you sit in queues at Heathrow. You sit on a plane next to someone who doesn't understand personal space. This was the moment. And for all of the effort, all of the danger, all of the risk, it didn't matter how small the fish were. They were his. Marsh. Brilliant reserve. Absolutely loads of cranes. And all of them, pretty much, have a baby. Well, they're not that much of a baby. They're still about 3 feet tall. But they're all patrolling around, picking things out of the grass, making the most incredible noises. Hopefully, you can hear those on video because they're just the weirdest noises ever. But I didn't come here for cranes, I came for snail kites. I've seen one here before. I'm told they're not doing very well. So they eat these apple snails. They're literally like apples, they're huge. I'll see if I can find one and hold up to the camera. And the apple snails aren't doing very well. So the knock-on effect is that the snail kites are struggling. And they're becoming rarer and rarer, or more rare and more rare. Which is sad, because they're an amazing looking bird. Some more cranes around this corner. And I'd love to be able to show you one, but I'm struggling. And they've got this incredibly curved beak where they'll literally put it into the snail and pull out the meat, pull out the good bit. But these snails are absolutely massive, they're like your fist. Is that one? No. There's some more cranes, there's 4 of them. We can see if I can see some snakes too. Found one. That is an apple snail. It's pretty beautiful actually, but they're food for snail kites and limpkins. I think maybe 1 or 2 other birds here as well, but the snail kites will put their curly beak in there and pull out the snail, and the limpkins will use their feet to bash a hole in the back, and then there's no air, there's no suction, so they can just pull it out normally. But otherwise, they're not doing particularly well, these. I think the Florida authorities are doing quite a lot to get them back up to good levels. But without these, there are no snail kites. I'll toss this one back in, but it's empty. These vultures were hilarious. Look at them. They're just hopping along 10 feet in front of me, and they only go away when you get really close. They've got this comical little run, but you've got to pinch yourself and realise these are vultures, not pigeons. I had been warned that these vultures at Hans Marsh go for the rubber bits and the insulation on your car. I managed to avoid it, but I caught this one red-handed. Crossed over to Sanibel for the evening session. Sitting and waiting next to this inlet, it very quickly became obvious that this was the spot for dinner. Kingfishers, terns, pelicans and egrets, all eagerly awaiting the first course, and it came and in some quantity, so it was a brilliant spot to sit, enjoy a cigar and watch the action unfold. With action like this right in front of you, it's impossible not to lose track of time, but that's Florida. And just as quickly as it started, this trip has come to an end. So thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time.